So the power of individual donors topic, four broad categories of donors, right? Government, institutional and foundations, corporates or CSR donations, and individual donors. These four donors essentially comprise all your donations, all your different sources of donation, different places from which you can get donations. This is the complete spread of it, right? HNI is, for those who don't know, a high net worth individual, someone who is willing to spend time, engage, is giving a lot of money, definitely, most important, and is willing to spend time with you engaging in a conversation. Now, what should this HNI be? What level should it be? Should it be 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs? I think it depends on every organization and the stage of evolution of that organization. We actually have a very interesting session next week on HNI fundraising. So we'll hear more about that at that time. But I'm going to, concentrate more on this entire group today of individual donors. So let's start off to understand how much do individuals give, right? First, in the US. So in the US, according to the Giving USA report, 70% of all donations are by individuals, 13% are by corporates, and 17% are by foundations. Now, remember one thing, that even in foundations, 17% from foundations, it is really those NGOs which are those individuals, high net worth individuals, ultra high net worth individuals, who have set up foundations and are giving from there, right? People like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Dell Foundation, the Packard Foundation. It's really them. So in reality, it's yet individual donations, but yes, there is a structure, there's a process, it's slightly different. So we'll park that as, that's what they describe as foundations, right? So that's the group of people that you have out there. Let me ask you another question now, and we'll run another poll to get that response. So let me start my poll. So I want to ask you, what percentage of donors in India, donations in India, are from individual donors? We saw the numbers from the US. What do you think it is for India? What percentage of donations in India are from individual donors? 0 to 10%, 10 to 25, 25 to 50, 50 to 75. Wait, let me just give you another 10 seconds for everyone to get in their responses. If you have any questions in the interim, please put it on the chat box and I'll take it up as appropriate, or as when I can see them. Right, great. So I'm just going to end this polling and share the results with you. 50% of you all are saying it is between 10 to 25%. Okay. 50% of you all are saying it is 10 to 25%. Let's see what the number is actually. 48% is from individuals, and this is based on tax deductions that are claimed by individuals. This is coming from data that is provided by the government of India during the budget, right? So this has come out from the last budget data. 48% of donations happen from individuals. We don't have the data of in this comprising what the FCRA donations are, what the other government donations are, but just the breakup between corporates and individuals. If we have to separate that out, corporates 52%, individuals 48%. This is what the data tells us. But let us also understand what the data doesn't tell us. According to me, giving by individuals is far more than this, and it is much more than corporates. And I will tell you why. First of all, while all corporates claim exemption, All individuals do not. They just forget. Many of them are taking very small donations. So they may not remember also to claim these donations. And as a result, many of them don't. Right? So as a result of it, we are not seeing this full data out here in terms of giving by individuals. Second reason, individual donation tax benefit is capped at 10% of gross income. So if a donor earns, let's say, 20 lakh rupees, he cannot claim more than 2 lakh rupees as donations and get tax benefits of that. So even if he has given 5 lakh rupees, he's getting exemption only for 2 lakhs. And as a result of that, you will see lower numbers in this data, right? Especially HNIs, many of them do give far more than 10% as well. So we are, again, this number is understated. Another reason, many HNIs give via shares, wills. They set up foundations, by transferring shares of their companies, mechanisms which are not necessarily captured in this data. So our gut is roughly 50 to 75% of donors actually claim their donations. That's more anecdotal evidence. The rest are not claiming. And as a result of it, we think individuals are anyway giving upwards of 60% of the overall giving basket between individuals and corporates. So many of you all who said, 50% and above, you're right? The guys who marked at 50 to 75%. So this is a basket which is at least 60, 65% of the total giving basket in India today. Now you need to ask yourself the question, are you at least taking 25%? I think that should be the minimum that individuals should comprise out of your segment. Further, it's not just that it is a large number, it's also growing faster now. It's growing at twice the rate of corporate giving over the last 3 years. Let's look at that data. So first of all, corporate giving has gone down from 61% to 52%. Individuals correspondingly has increased from 39 to 48% of the total giving basket. Like I said, again, 48 is an understated number, likely to be around 60, 65%. And even more interesting, over the last 3 years, corporate giving has increased by 51%, but individual giving has increased by 116%. Right now, isn't that a very amazing number? Right? It's growing at twice the rate of corporate giving. In fact, just the last, and let me show you this over a slightly longer period as well now. If you look at this data, this is over a 6-7 year period that you're seeing this data in terms of the giving. Look at the last 2 years of data for corporate and individuals. So corporate has grown by 8%, 16%, 30%. Like growth itself is doubling. So great. And I think this year is going to be much higher on account of COVID. So we're going to see a lot of giving happening this year. But equally, even individual growth has grown from 36% in the 2017-18 over 2016-17 and 58% last year. 58% growth in 1 year. Isn't that amazing? Right? And with COVID, because of COVID in 2019-20, we're going to see even higher growth this year. Right? I'm sure many of you all must have got a lot of donations, especially this year, from individual donors. Now you need to capitalize on it. You need to leverage it. You need to retain your donors. You need to grow your donors. They may have given for COVID, but how can you start making them give for your own organization? I think that's the key question that you have to answer, and we can help you to answer that question. What are the other reasons of why an individual donors are great? So we're going to get a bit into that, saying, so one of the key reasons we tell people to look at individual donors is diversification. We saw earlier that there are 4 types of donors, right? At least 3 types of donors you should have from a diversification perspective. And diversification is really the case only when we are truly diversified. We are diversified if there are different types of donors. And we want to show you that individual donors are actually different types of donors. So we put down all those 4 types. We split individual into 2 categories, HNI and retail. And let's walk through some of the differences between all these types. So first of all, why is it that these segments give? What is the reason? So for government, it's about solving a problem, whether it's malnutrition, whether it's education, whether it's skilling, whether it's vocational training. It's about solving a problem. Similarly, with institutions and foundations, they want to solve a problem. You are there on the ground solving the problem. They want to help you solve that problem, right? Corporate and CSR, the biggest reason they're giving is law, social responsibility, and brand awareness, right? When corporates are giving, it's not necessarily about solving a particular problem. It's about what aligns with business, what aligns with brand, and making a case for social responsibility. What about individuals? With individual, it's actually very different. It's personal reasons. It's a duty to give. It's giving back to society. A lot of people think of it as their duty to give back to society. And obviously, for a lot of people, there's a guilt conscience, right? Many times you see people giving and say, okay, I'll give and hopefully something good will happen to me. Or I will give because I didn't do something. Or giving out of knowledge of having benefited. A lot of people give because they know that they have benefited from someone's giving in the past, right? So very, very personal reasons in terms of giving back. So how do they connect with you? What is the connection with you as an NGO? In case of government, you have to match a scheme or a policy that the government has running. If you implement their scheme or policy, you have a chance of getting funding. In case of institution foundation, are you in their core focus area? Are you solving a problem that they are looking to solve? Are you looking to solve a problem in the way they are looking to solve the problem? Right? Many of these combinations, but essentially saying, are you solving the same problem? Are you in the same cause area? In case of corporate CSR, how do you find that? Largely connect with the CEO. In most mid to large organizations, maybe the ultra large are a slightly different lot, but in most small, mid, large organizations, do you have a connection with CEO? Do you have a connection with senior management? Do you have a connection with someone who has the ability to influence funds in your direction? Plus, are you in the focus area? So the focus area is also important. But as you know, there are so many organizations in the focus area. How is the corporate going to decide in your favor? How are they going to decide that they should give it to you? There are lots of organizations working on education. There are lots of organizations working on pre-primary education. There are lots of organizations working on pre-primary education in Mumbai, right? How will the organization decide? It does come down to whether you have the connect. Individual HNIs, it's focus areas again. HNIs do have focus areas. At least if they're mature individuals, they've been there for a while, they have focus area that they want to look at. Trust in you. And the connect always helps. If you have come in via referral, you have come in via someone they know. Because remember, they're giving large amounts of money. And when someone is giving large amounts of money, they want to be sure that it is also going to be utilized properly. Right? So trust and connect are important. Obviously, the work that you do will come back the next year to decide whether, and your engagement with them will decide whether they give you back next year. But this is what happens initially. With individual and retail, it is trust and connect, right? Do they trust you? Do they know you? Do they believe you'll do the work? And how do they know you? Have they heard from you from somewhere? Friends, family, media, articles, right? Some connection. It need not be a personal connection. It can be some connection. It can just be a fact that you made them emote at a particular time. So what does that mean for leads? How will you get leads? What is the implication on this for leads? In most cases with government and institutional foundations, you can go with cold calls because your connections don't matter. Only the fact that you're in the same cause area, you're in the same area that the government or the foundation wants to give is all that's important. Nothing else is important. With corporate and CSR and individual HNIs, referrals are far more important. Like we said, connect, right? You need to have the right connects within corporates at the senior management level. You need to have connects with HNIs. and you need to have them refer you to other corporates or HNIs to get things. You cannot do it without referrals. That is the best way. That is the only way this works, right? There has to be some connect. While with individual retail, very easy. Your own friends, family, people you know, so many of them, right, can also give to you. So it is a lot more easier to get leads from your own friends and family. They're all around you, and thus build an individual donor base. What are the other differences? What about the decision-making process? How does the decision-making process happen? With government, tends to be with government officers or a committee. Institutional foundation tends to be with committees. CSR is with committees. HNIs is generally family, right? The family will decide where they want to give money, and retail really is the individual person. This can change a bit, but broadly, this is the way it is. The, now, is it their own money? That's also an important thing, right? So for the first three segments, it's not their own money. People who are deciding are not the owners of their money. But for individuals, they are the owners of their money. So which do you think will be faster? Right? Obviously, people who are deciding individually of their own money, right? You are the master of your own money. You have the right to decide how to give. But when you are not, you need to have a process to give, right? So you need to have a process. Some of those processes run fast, some of those processes run slow, right? But there is a process, there's a committee, there is a decision-making hierarchy, there is a number of people who are deciding on what is not their own money, so they have to be extra careful. So you will be able to move much, much faster with individuals. Faster decision-making process also reduces the time you are investing in that process. So it makes the overall process a lot more efficient. And it really provides a source of diversification. So what is the process? Like we discussed, right? When people are deciding with a committee, it's a lot about numbers. It's a lot about rationale. It's about impact. It's about beneficiary benefits, a lot of rational process. But with individuals, it's more emotional, especially at the retail level where people are giving smaller amounts of money, say 1,000 to 5,000, 10,000, 25,000 rupees. It's a very emotional and an impulse driven. You decide now and that's it. You even forget it tomorrow. With HNIs, it's a bit of both. So when they decide or they will always love you, love your cause emotionally, right? Love is emotion. But when they decide how they want to give, how much they want to give, how are they looking at data, how are they looking at impact, they will, because they're giving large amounts of money. So if you don't do a good job afterwards, they're probably not going to give it to you the next time. So it's a bit of both, the rational and emotional process. So again, this is diversification, right? First three rational, now we have emotional in this. What's the duration in for which you get funding? Typically with government, it's a year. Annually budgets get revised. Institutional foundations could give for you for 5 years, 7 years, some of them 3 years, right? But every year it's kind of a renewal, but broadly it does get renewed. Corporate CSR also can give for 3 to 5 years maximum, typically. But then you have years like this year where everything goes for a toss. Either funds are diverted to other sources, or there isn't going to be enough profit made, so there isn't going to be a lot of funding available the next year. Or they decide that they want to now give to another organization because the CEO changed, right? These things happen. So in reality, while corporates are giving for 3 to 5 years, they're actually only giving to you annually because every year you have to renew that grant. It just doesn't happen automatically. With individuals and HNIs, if engaged well, they can be lifetime donors, and not just lifetime, but multi-generational, right? A lot of children give to places where their parents have given. They have gone to those places growing up over a period of time with their parents, and then they also decide that it's a good organization, parents have been giving, let me continue giving. So a lot of giving is very multi-generational in the individual space. So if you've got a donor, you've engaged them well, you are very, very less likely to lose the donor over a period of time. And you're going to get their sons and grandsons also to give to you, right? That's the benefit of these donors. Amount wise, from a single donor, obviously government, institutional foundations are high amounts, right? CSR and individual HNIs may be medium. Retail is obviously low by definition of it. And this is why it's very important to have this mix of donations, right? High amounts in one project are very good for capital grant kind of projects. When you need to build assets, you need to build a building, you need to build a classroom, you need to build some manufacturing unit for something that you're doing. You need to put in place a process for a vocational or skill training program that you're creating. And retail money is great then for running that thing over a period of time. So for example, Akshay Patra has a very lovely model wherein whenever somebody asks them to open a new kitchen or if they want to open a new kitchen, they actually ask the donor to provide capital grant for the kitchen and 5 years of operating grant support. Right? All the money may not come upfront, it may come as required, but that's the requirement they have. 1 year first capital grant of the value of the kitchen, let's say that's 5 crores, and then the running cost of the kitchen for a period of 5 years. But the beauty is that within that 5 years, they create a retail donation engine, typically from the same state. So if I have started a kitchen now in Assam, I will try to get donors from Assam, maybe the Northeast, to start giving to me for this kitchen. Obviously, the connect is there, right? Geographical connect, closer connect. And over those 5 years, they make their kitchen in a place self-sustainable, so as to speak. When I say self-sustainable, meaning they're able to get individual donors to give to it. And the reason it is called self-sustainable is because you can actually run it like a process, run an individual fundraising campaign, continuous basis as an engine, and raise money. So if you look at this data itself, you'll see, along with the past data, very similar kind of organizations, right? Rational decision making, specific time duration projects. You generally have to cold call or have referrals. But with individual and HNI and retail, it's different, right? So again, I'm not saying you should have individuals and you should not have that. What I'm trying to say here is you should have a good combination of both. If you are not the way you focus on any of these other segments, you must similarly focus on the individual segment as well. The way you are looking at where you may have fundraisers, individual requires an approach which creates an engine so that if you do a set of activities, you will get a set of results. It's kind of guaranteed almost, right? You send mailers, you get donation. It's as simple as that almost. So why is it important to ask for donations from individuals? Right? We saw now that individuals are giving more, their growth is more, they're different category. What other reasons are there? What are the other qualitative reasons, so as to speak, why it's good to have donations from individuals? Diversification, right? That's something that we've spoken about, obviously. That diversification is something that you get. Stable. Retail donors are far more stable in their giving, unlike corporate and foundations. They are, because corporate and foundation giving is time bound. It depends on their financial performance. With retail donors, hardly donors who get less salary, right? They never get less salary. You only get more salary. So they are giving percentage of salary or they're giving some amount based on their understanding of how much they can give. So a lot more stable. Even if you lose retail donors, you can get other retail donors. Not as easy to replace corporates, right? Even if you have 10 corporates giving to you, one goes away, you know how difficult it is to get one more corporate to give to you, right? But on the other hand, if you have 100 donors, 10, 20 go away, not very difficult to get another 10, 20 donors as well, right? You just have to keep adding to your list of donors. right? I am just going to, I think there are a few questions. Let me just have a look at those and see if some of you all have written in to me personally. Just going to look at that. Okay. Okay, we can go ahead. It's unlimited, right? CSR 2%. Governments have budgets, foundations have budgets. Individuals don't have an unconscious budget, but that can be increased, right? Most of them are giving less than 1% of their income. So if that one becomes 2%, donations double but has no impact on their lifestyle. They have a much longer time span. So it's not just about how much they can give in 1 year, but how much they can give over a period of time. CSR and corporates are giving 3 to 5 years, right? But individuals, like we discussed, can give for a lifetime. Now, this is amazing, right? Individuals can fundraise for you. Corporates are never going to fundraise for you. Foundations don't fundraise for you. They don't even refer you to others, right? Most of the time, they'll refer you when they themselves are not giving the money. But if they themselves are not giving the money and they refer to somebody else, why will that person give the money? Assuming that you're working in the cause area that you approach, right? I'm making that assumption. If Foundation A doesn't give them money and says, why don't you look at Foundation B? And maybe even writes your reference letter. Foundation B is going to wonder, if Foundation A didn't give, then why, must be something is not okay. How can I give? Right? So references work if people give you money and refer. But individuals actually can fundraise for you. They do fundraising, right? We've seen marathon fundraising, various different forms of fundraising are today quite prevalent. So individuals can raise money by fundraising amongst their friends, family, and colleagues. And involving individuals to support an organizations, they can engage. Because if what are you trying to do? You're trying to make society better, fundamentally, right? And if society, which is this group of people, a group of individuals, come together and support you in that cause, is there anything better than that? That's the real value of individual donors, because you are getting society to work to improve itself, right? So that engagement is something that you are able to get from these donors. So, and what is, let's look at some of the more qualitative information that is there with respect to individual donors based on surveys that have taken place, right? So you can see out here, this is actually a very interesting survey done some time back, but it is comprised primarily of developed third world countries, developing countries, so as to speak. And in that, you can see that Indian donors itself are saying that we are very interested in giving to companies which are more socially conscious. What I'm trying to say from here is that to give to companies which are more socially conscious, people have to be more socially conscious, and that is there. And we've shown the maximum increase as well, right? From 56% to 75% of people have said that they are more interested in this, right? Just to answer question, sorry. Okay, let me just answer this question. Yes. So, Vinodni, you'd asked a question earlier that is this not counting donations to temples? No, it is not counting donations to temples because donations to temples are not tax exempt. That's why, so that data doesn't come out here in itself. Does it include donations to political parties? It doesn't include, to the extent that those donations would be exempt from ATG, it does. But I believe that political party donations are under another section. So this will not include that also, right? And I think, so yes, I think we have, Lakshmi has asked, can we get donation from out of India in FCRA account? Yes, you can. Yes, you can get, there's nothing which prevents you from getting FCRA using a payment gateway. There's no rule or provision says which you can't get it, right? Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead from here. Now, very few studies have been done with respect to giving in India, right? And I'm going to look at some of those studies which are done by bodies which do general studies, because they have a large outreach base and can reach out to a cross section of consumers. So there was a report by Harris which said Indians are least cynical and most enthusiastic about driving positive change. Right? People do want to give. You got to reach out to them. In fact, if you look at the study below it, it says that 83% of Indians wanted to be part of a truly important cause, versus 45 in UK and 61 in the US. 81% Indians feel that they have a responsibility to make a world a better place, versus 60 in the US and 70 in the UK and 70 in US. 80% of Indians believe they're not just citizens of India, but also citizens of the world, and actually want to support global interests. Unfortunately, most NGOs can't give donations outside, but people can. Right? So what I'm trying to really say with all of this is individuals do want to give. They are either not finding causes or they're not trusting the cause. And that's the two reasons why they're not giving. And you have an opportunity to reach out to them and get more from them. As you can see, we're already giving, individuals already giving a lot, but we can do much better. 84% of 836 million Indians give once a year. That's according to the India Giving Report by CAP, right? So this is giving in some form, right? You may get tax break, you may not. You've given to the beggar at the traffic signal, you've given to your maid, you've given to your driver's child, all kinds of giving in kind, giving in money. Very large number of people giving. The India Philanthropy Report said that 21% per year in the last 5 years, right? Forget the numbers, right? Numbers are based on various different things. I think look at the trend. What's the trend saying? The trend is saying you're seeing double-digit growth among individuals across years, right? That's the kind of growth you're never going to get in the corporate segment. The corporate segment is going to grow at GDP percentage broadly, 8% on a long-term basis, 8 to 10%, right? But individual giving is growing much faster. Like we saw that already. So unfortunately, this is something else that the philanthropy report has said, that most Indian nonprofits look to everyday giving. Everyday giving is another form of saying retail giving, when other funding streams are inaccessible, right? This has been that year a bit, right? When other funding streams have become inaccessible. Corporate giving has dried up. FCRA donations have become much more difficult to get. How do we, this is a great time, if you have not yet started, to start looking at retail giving, to start looking at getting donations from individuals, to start building your fundraising engine, right? So what is that? I've been talking about building a fundraising engine, What does that mean, really? And these are some of the things that we have covered in the past few webinars. Some of these things we'll cover in the next few webinars as well. But very, very simply put, 5 steps towards building a successful individual fundraising plan. And I will ask you a question before that, though. Let's run another poll. How many of you have a list of your donors in Excel or in some digital form? Let me add that. And when I say list, it should be with contact details, right? So with email ID or mobile number, some way to contact them. Not a list which is only made up of names. Not a list which is only made up of names and addresses. A list which is more than that. A list which allows you to reach out to them. I'm sorry, Shipra, we do not help in getting FCRA registration, but if you can write into us, we can connect you with a firm that can help you with FCRA registrations. Okay, great. So we have 80% of y'all have actually said that y'all have a list of donors. Excellent, great to know. We would love to know how many donors are there in that. And that's another session that we had done back in, where we found, where you could see that each of y'all actually can create a list of 4,000 to 5,000 donors, right? And it's not very difficult. Y'all can look at our YouTube channel and find that video and check out how we said you can get there. But very broadly put, what are the 5 steps? Identification, first step, right? Creating that list of donors. The second step is asking for donations, right? How do you ask for donations? Again, we did a session on that called crafting the ask. But what's the cost? Can't you just give? Is what you'd love to have donor saying, right? You want to go to a donor and say, hey, I run an NGO, so you should give to me. No, doesn't work that way. How do you ask? And also, do you ask? How often do you ask? Let me ask all of you all that question next. So if you all can tell me, how often do you send out asks and updates, asks or updates to your donors? These could be communication, it could be ask for donations, it could just be updates on the projects, anything. Yes, Nimish, will be circulating the recording of this webinar, so you can answer, you can have a look at it. All our recordings are available on our YouTube channel. Namita will let you know those details at the end of the session. So Ria is asking a question. In 2020, there was 0 recreation activities. So individual donations are high, but will it happen when things will become normal? Okay, so you think because people could not give on other things, their own personal things they gave to you. Is that what the sense is? I don't think so. I don't think that was the reason people gave. I think the reason people gave is because you asked. I think if you had not asked, people would not have given. So I think the big difference that I see personally with NGOs, especially in the early part of this year, has been that a lot of them have asked for donations. And unfortunately, that has come down. I see organizations not asking. I mean, it's been 9 months now since we started, 10 months since COVID's come in. People have asked in the first 3 months. They've stopped asking after that. I think the very, very fundamental principle is that if you ask, you get. If you don't ask, you don't get. Remember, it's an emotional, impulse-driven decision for 70 to 80% of your donors. You have to ask for you to get. It's not that, they're probably spending far more on other recreation activities, like whether it's watching a movie, going to a trip. They are spending not more than 1% out here on your donation. If 1% becomes 2%, it's not going to make a difference to them. Right? But if you don't ask, and after asking, if you don't engage, you are not going to get those donations. Okay, so I'm going to stop this polling out here and share the results with you. Let's see what the results say. Okay, so 28% or 30% of you all are saying, once in a while we do it, most likely never. Many of you, one of you all is saying, I don't believe in asking. I don't know which one it is, whether you don't send updates or you don't believe, but we're just putting it out there. Another 17% are just saying once a year, once in 6 months, once in 3 months. So every month, right? I love these 9 NGOs who are sending something out every month, right? I often see organizations which send out 4-page, 16, 12-page, 16-page PDF documents every quarter, or you send one newsletter, one annual report in a year, right? Instead of sending out a 4-page report every quarter, why not send one story every month? Just send one story every month. Your effort is going to be very similar, right? But your impact is going to be much higher because the donor is going to know you try to reach, that you send something. The other reason is when you send one story or one communication every month, you're sending 12 in a year. Remember, your donors are not going to see everything. Maybe they'll see 6, 7 communications. Now, if you send only 4 communications in a year, your donors may see just one of them or 2 of them or probably nothing. Right? Keep that in mind. So to ensure that your donors are seeing something, you must send at least once a year. And what we recommend is you should have a calendar that you can send out to that you follow, wherein every 3 months ask for donations at least. very, very explicitly ask for donations every 3 months. Every month, you should have a donate button. You should have a donate link in your newsletter, in your update. Don't call it newsletter. Huh? No one likes reading newsletter. No one likes to know what you're doing. Everyone likes to know the impact that you're making. Right? So talk from an impact perspective. Talk about what you have done that is creating impact for the beneficiaries. Right? Don't talk about yourself, least interested. Right? Talk about what your work. And always at least have an implicit ask in every update that you send. If you see our updates to you on newsletters, we also never use the word newsletter when we write to you. We are trying to also showcase things which may be relevant to you. We may not be perfect yet, but we're trying. So I think the minimum that you have to write out to your donors is once a month. And this does not have to be a very good way to, it doesn't have to be a fancy email with fancy graphics, fancy writing. It can even be a simple email from your founder. It can just be a 2-para email saying, hey, what's happened in the last couple of months? What impact have we brought in the last month? It can be about a story. It can be about an interesting incident that took place with respect to the work, right? It does not have to be fancy, but it is important that it is there. I will almost say here that, right, the frequency is important. In all communication, frequency, consistency is far more important than quality. Quality is also important, but frequency and consistency is much more important, right? Ved is asking, what are the ways to impress a new individual to give donation to my organization? Again, like I said, you have to talk about your cause, talk about the impact that you're doing, show them if they're willing to come to your organization, get them there. That has the maximum impact. Once they're there, talk less, show more, always better. People who will give because they see. With HNIs, however, there's an interesting dynamic. Most of them will give before they see your organizations. After they give, but they will all visit your organization along with family, right? So don't wait for HNIs to come. They are very busy people. They may not come to your organization to see it. Take the money if they're giving it, but definitely get them to visit afterwards. It will help you to get more next year, right? So ask at least once a year, people, once a month, sorry. Once you've asked and somebody has given, remember to thank, right? Ensure that you thank your donors, ideally within 2 working days. Send out some communication to them, acknowledging the donation, acknowledging them, the contribution to your cause. The next thing you have to worry about is retaining donors. How do you retain donors? Right? Your communication is going to play a very big task in retaining donors, because through that communication, you have engaged the donor. If you can engage the donor, you're going to retain the donor. But retention is not just going to happen without asking again, right? If you expect donors to say, hey, you know what? Donor will think, okay, I gave in January, and then next January he thinks, oh, I gave last January, I have to give again. No donor thinks like that. No donor remembers like that. They will only remember if you ask. Nurture. Right? What does nurture mean? How do you get donors to give more? How do you give them to get more than what they gave last time? Now, this is another, like we've done sessions on identification, full session. We've done session on ask. We'll do sessions on the other topics as well. But nurture is very simply put, how do you get them to give more? Right? Your costs are increasing. How do you get them to give more? Very simply put, not by asking for specific amounts of money, but by asking for what that money can do. So educate a child for a year for 5,000 rupees. Next year, if that education has increased from 5 to 6,000 rupees, you are yet asking for educate a child. But now it costs 6,000 rupees. This becomes a lot more easier if you ask in terms of the impact rather than in terms of money. So if you had gone last year and said, hey, you gave 5,000 rupees, then this year most of them are going to say, okay, we'll give 5,000 again. But if you tell them, you educated one girl last year, they'll want to educate one more girl this year. And that's the real impact, right? Your real costs have changed. You do want to give them more money. You do want to get more money from them because your costs have changed. So this is one way, by focusing on the impact. The second way is by doubling the impact. Okay, you gave to one child last year, give to 2 children this year. Right? Simply straight away double along with inflation adjustment. Right? One child was 5,000 last year, 2 children are 12,000 this year. Right? People do want to give more, and they can. There's no most people who give emotionally do not have a conscious budget in their mind. They may have a subconscious budget, but they do not have a conscious budget in their mind. So if they've given 5, they can give 10 also. Even with HNIs, if they've given 5 lakhs, they can give 10 lakhs also. I have seen in my experience, HNIs have increased giving from 5 lakhs to 25 lakhs in a period of 3 years, if they are engaged well. 5 lakhs to 25 lakhs in a period of 3 years, they all have the ability to give. Most of them, I will say very easily that 80-90% of the ability to grow that giving. But are we asking? That's the key question. And what all are you doing? I will leave all of you guys with one thing. I know there are a lot of different thoughts and ideas in your head, right? Especially in this world where we are all a lot more digital, a lot more social media to use, a lot of many other things to use. What can you do? I will say only one thing, right? If you cannot do all of this, you cannot do so many things. Do one thing, write one email to your donors every month. As founders, as senior management, write one email. As employees, make your founders and CEOs write one email. Writing one email of 2 to 3 paragraphs is not difficult. Once a month, that's it. Just do that much. I think you will start your journey of engaging your donors. When you see that getting results, you will do a lot more and you can get into all of this. Right? So that's where I end my session. Thank you very much. We can.
Well, if anybody has any question, please raise your hand. I'll unmute you so that you can talk about your question. If not, you can also post them on the chat.
I'll just in the meanwhile answer question. Thank you, Vandana from WeCare for your kind words. Vasumati, do you have a YouTube video on how to create a campaign in Danamojo? Yes, we do. It's available on our YouTube channel. You can see a video on our integrated email marketing platform on how to create a campaign and send out. Shipra, on a donor list, we've actually done a webinar on this. Again, you can check out our YouTube channel. We've done a webinar on how to create a donor list. You can have a look at that. Thank you, Mr. Kamlakan. Thank you, Asha. Any questions? And we'd also love to hear from you on your experiences with respect to individual donors. So if anyone can raise their hand on Zoom or on the video, we can reach out. I think we have Ria raising her hand. Namita, if you can help.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Ria from Childlife Preserve Shishu Shivai, Kolkata.
Hi, Ria.
This was a great seminar. Thank you so much. Firstly,
thank you.
Secondly, I want to talk about the individual donors here.
Right.
So when we figure out the individual donors, there are temple donations, there are party donations, there are animal donations, to the animal hospitals and everything.
Okay.
So most of the individual donors want impact, and that's a very fast impact which they want. But in our organization, most of the programs are running ongoing. Like if a girl is studying, she will complete her 10, 12, and it will take few years to do that. So the quick impact, we miss that quick impact. So what are your recommendations how to hold back the individual donor to give us every time?
Like I said, I think you have to, who decides impact? You or the donor? Right? It is important to decide that impact yourself.
Okay.
To say, what is that impact? You don't have to wait 10 years till a person passes out, right? First of all, every year there is impact. Every year there's an exam, there's a report, there is performance. Beyond that, there is activity that is happening during the course of the year. Maybe there's a great project she did. Maybe there's some art and craft that your child created. Share that with donors, right? Remember, these are individual retail donors. They are not CSR corporate. They're not looking at impact actually.
Okay.
They're actually looking at the most important thing for them is their money is not getting misused.
Right.
For a retail donor, the most important thing is money is not getting misused and it is going for a good cause. Right? Now, if you can show that your cause is good and that money is being used well, the donor will keep giving to you every year.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right? Okay, let me just look at some of those other questions. There was somebody else, I think.
Yeah, Mr. Milind?
Yes. Hi, sir. If this is a great webinar. So we Podar Foundation is working on mental health. So while we were talking about the mental health, it's invisible, and we felt sometime difficulty to raise a fund. Like in last year also we faced difficulty in fundraising Tata Mumbai marathons. Like mental health is invisible, and also you mentioned as the impact and approach is
Right.
also.
So I think, Milind, I understand your
I
question.
felt
It's difficult to raise. How do we raise money, right? That's what you're asking.
yes.
Do you know who typically donates for causes related to cancer?
Like mostly the friends and survival, like the friends and survival groups.
Survivor groups, friends,
Yeah, survive friends
sons
and
and
their
daughters,
reference.
of parents who had cancer.
Yes.
Correct. Now, mental health is also a very widely
Yes,
prevalent thing. It's hidden, you're right, but it's widely prevalent as well, right? Families of people affected by mental health are aware of it, right?
Yeah.
You need to target that group. You need to target the group of, they are there, right? They know that they are there. You may not be, you not know them. You don't know the people who are affected by mental health, but families of people who are affected by mental health are the most likely to give. You need to target that segment.
Okay.
Right. Let me, before taking some more questions, let me take the ones on chat. So Ketki is asking, can I mentor for a little more? I'm sorry, very difficult for me to spend one-on-one time. Happy to answer questions to this webinar kind of thing, or if you can write an email, if possible, I can try. That's going to be slightly difficult to do individually. Vikram is asking, isn't engaging with individual donors a bit more expensive as compared to others? So I think it depends on how you reach out to individual donors, right? If your reach out mechanism is primarily going to be concentrated on Facebook ads, social media activities, it is going to be very expensive, no doubt about that. If your reach out method is going to be about reaching out to your friends, family, building mailing lists, communicating with them, engaging with them, then that is something that is not expensive at all. It does take effort, but again, it is something which doesn't take the CEO's time. It doesn't necessarily have to take the founder's time. It can be done by a team. It can be done even by one person. One enthusiastic person can run your fundraising thing, who can almost be a fresher. They will need guidance. They will need assistance, but it doesn't have to be anything more than that to run it. You just need to do things regularly and consistently. That's all that's required. Meenakshi is asking how to ask individual donors to engage in monthly giving after one donation. Okay, this is a very, very good topic. I think you need to understand whether your donor is a one-time donor or a monthly donor. Very difficult to understand, I agree. But what you can do is you can ask people to give to you monthly. And if you want to give to them monthly, don't say give to one child for a year for 6,000 rupees or give every month for 500. A monthly donor and a one-time donor are very different. Sending a message like this confuses both donors. So either you ask for one-time 6,000 or you ask monthly 500 in one communication, right? Yes, I know that communication will go to people who give one time, they will ignore it. But people who now realize that they have the opportunity to give monthly could also start giving monthly. We are seeing that when donors on their own decide to give monthly, they give larger amounts. We are seeing people give 2,000 rupees, 1,000 rupees a month, right? So that's quite a large amount. So people who are even giving larger amounts would like to give monthly. The other reason why people with larger amounts want to give monthly is that because they want to give, and many times they forget to give for many other reasons, right? They get lost in their own work, their own thing, And then they realize, you're like, oh shit, I forgot to give. Now, unfortunately for you, when they've forgotten to give, they're not going to make up for what they've not given. They are going to give going forward. Right? So they might say, oh, you didn't ask last year, now I forgot. Okay, here, take 10,000 rupees, what I gave to you the year before that. Or what about last year? I lost my 10,000. No. Right? Now, but the donor actually wants to give. He just didn't give because most likely he didn't, you didn't ask, or he forgot, he or she forgot. So they want to have a system where they say, I want to set it up monthly so that I never forget. I know somebody who's been asking me that I want, she actually lands up giving about close to 2 lakhs every 6 months. And she wants to set up a 30,000 rupee monthly donation cycle so that she never forgets. Because she knows, okay, I want to give, so I'll give. I don't need to be reminded, I'm very wedded to the cause. So she wants to actually give monthly so that she doesn't forget. Now that is the other thing, right? That is why monthly is also important, to prevent your donors from forgetting who want to give. Many times we've had cases where donors say, hey, you didn't ask, so I forgot. I'm sure many of you all would have experienced that as well. So, so I think what I'm trying to say is you have to ask separately, don't ask together. And there are reasons why they're giving beyond just, they're really committed to you. That's why they want to give monthly. One nice thing, each time I've heard from you, we send a small message to donors, got some funds. So a small message really works. Fantastic. That's so great to know, Vandana. Really happy for you. Lakshmi saying we have society as well as FCRA having ATG. Could we get the donation by gateway? Yes, you can, Lakshmi. You can fill out the inquiry form on Dana Mojo's website, and someone from our team will give to you. Okay. WeCare, Vandana from WeCare, is WhatsApp a good idea? Fantastic idea. I think WhatsApp is absolutely great. If you can create a nice message on WhatsApp, again, similar to email, whatever the message be, and send it out to all your donors, nothing like it. It's a great way to actually get donations. Yes, Ravindra, that's the takeaway I want to leave you with. One email per month. If there is nothing else to take away from that, just take away that much. One email per month. Aishwarya is asking, thank you for organizing this. Vikalp at Prithvi organizes documentary screenings with directors. You may sign up. Thank you. Okay, Vikram. Individual donors always need more of personal attention if they are donating because of trust in the founder. Actually, because they have trust in the founder, they don't want individual attention. Many of individual donors actually want nothing to do with you. They only want to give you money. Back at Give India, when I was there, we had started the schemes, a Hall of Fame scheme. So we have this belief that donors want to see their name somewhere. We see it in hospitals, we see it in temples. While it is there out there, when we ask people, do you want to be part of Hall of Fame? Most of them didn't even reply. In fact, we had one donor from the US. Every time he used to give 2 lakh rupees every year. Once there was a problem with his donation, so we were trying to reach out to him. He never answered a single mail of ours. Come December, he religiously gave his 2 lakh rupees and then also never answered the mail regarding the problem. So most donors who are giving online and who are giving through these mechanisms actually prefer it because of the anonymity and because of the lack of interaction. They don't want to interact with you, many of them. But that doesn't mean that they don't want to get the updates and they don't want to be engaged, right? The way to engage them is a lot more passive, especially for retail donors. If it is a HNI donors, you have to judge whether they also want passive, but you at least want to meet them once or twice a year because they're giving large amounts of money. Also helps you to get more money. So I think retail donors actually want to be passive donors. They don't want you to contact them, call them, right? Okay. Shipra is asking, does Dana Mojo help to connect? No, Dana Mojo does not help to connect with corporates or individuals. We are a payment solutions platform who's saying, okay. We're trying to raise funds for construction of school buildings at a relatively higher, and it was not very effective for this. Again, I'm not sure how you did individual donations for a school, but I can give you an example of an organization called Milan, which did a very beautiful campaign of donate a brick for a school, right? So brick by brick, literally, they actually raised money for the school just a campaign saying donate a brick, right? So you could look at more of that. Thank you, Milind. Thank you, Ruben. Okay. Ketki, you're asking whether it's okay to create a WhatsApp group. So Ketki, the way I would ask you to create a WhatsApp group is create a group, but don't add your donors to it directly. Send them a link for an invite to that group, right? And let them decide whether they want to be part of the group or not. The problem with a group is that all your donors will have access to each other's contact details, and donors may not be comfortable with that. So allow donors the option to do it. Yes, Vasumati, a broadcast list is much better. The only problem with the broadcast list is that if the donor doesn't have your number, your message is not reaching them, right? So for you to create a broadcast list, make sure the donors have your number, then it's fine. Benaifer, what's the criteria for HNI donors, retail donors? Again, very, very specific to organization, the size of organizations. But at the minimum, an HNI donor would be a donor who gives 1 lakh. But as you grow in terms of your size of organization, you'd probably be higher. Let's say for Akshay Patra, that number probably is 10 lakhs or 25 lakhs. For a mid-size organization, it would probably be 5 lakhs. But I think the way I look at it is an HNI donor is one where you want to provide updates to the donor by meeting in person, and you think that's worth the time. So think about what amount for you is worth the time to meet a donor in person at least twice a year to give them updates. One meeting should be a pure update without even asking for money at the end of 6 months. At the end of 12 months, you do an update and ask for renewal of that contract. And like I said, when you renew, never renew in amount, renew in impact. Renew for 10 children's education. Don't renew an amount for 50,000 rupees. Okay. We have Vikram saying any software for donor management, donor tracking, and database. Vikram, I think there are many softwares available for this. Depends on what exactly you want to use it for. DanaMojo also provides a mechanism to do that. We have a partner called Area, which has a software called ERP for Impact. They had done a session with us. You can have a look at that also online on our YouTube channel. We have lots of messages out here. Ruben is saying it's overwhelming for HNIs if you send updates every month. Do you suggest sending updates or meeting? So I think with HNIs, you have to do both. I don't think it's overwhelming for them. I don't think they will see every single mail. One story every month is not overwhelming. Most organizations in the US, in fact, if we ran the same survey, you would find a lot of them saying once a week. Okay, large organizations in India have already started sending once a day. Go and subscribe to Akshay Patra, see how many mails you get in a day, right? So large organizations are sending once a day now. Okay, I think we have Stuti. Namita, if you can, Stuti's been waiting to ask a question for a while.
Hello. Hi, my name is Stuti. I'm from Mana Foundation, and we are supporting we are working in the field of mental health. And since the past few months, we had been struggling to, raise funds during the COVID period. And we used to run a daycare center, but since we've moved on to a digital platform, we were really struggling to, continue giving our support to our clients. So we did have a fundraising campaign. We initiated a fundraising campaign, and like the steps, there's 5 steps you mentioned. So we did create an individual donor base first. We created a list, and then we created emails, drafted emails, and we sent out the emails to them at different intervals of time, like along 5 weeks, like 1 email per week to different donors that we had listed, we had put on the list. And in that way, we were really able to, gather a lot of funds. I mean, we were able to raise funds we reached out through individual donors, through our friends, family, as well as donors who had donated in the past, so the strategy really did work out well for us. And at the same time, we would also want to know what would be like a good timeline, what would be a good gap for us to send emails out to people. what would be a better time? Would 1 week or something more, or how should they be going out, like for reminders or so?
So Stuti, thanks a lot for sharing your experiences. Very glad that it worked really great for you. Are you, so if you're talking about emails related to the transaction, like I said, that should be within 2 working days. If you're talking about updates, I think it should be at least once a month to your donors. And if you have run a crowdfunding campaign and you have run a campaign not amongst your donors, but amongst donors of other networks and social networks of other people, you need to now make them into cause donors, into donors for your organization. So that should involve a process in which you help them learn about your organization. And that is what the initial mails would consist of, so that they can then donate to you.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would say every month you can definitely send out updates.
And with regards to asks, as in if we want to send out asks for a campaign, then what would be like a good timeline for that?
So like I said, I don't think you should think of it in terms of campaigns. I think you should think of it as regularly asking money, right?
Okay.
Let people donate whenever they want to also. If you're doing a campaign, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year maximum, you can do a campaign and ask people for money like that. But otherwise, as an organization, you should be asking for money every month.
Okay.
Right? You should be, it should be there, as I said, implicitly in your email, ask explicitly. But as a campaign, run it probably once a year or twice a year at best. So 1 second. So we have Ved is asking, should we ask donors to join WhatsApp group? Only information. I'm not sure what this question means. Like I said, ask them to join, send them an invite link to join. Namita, we have Vasumati who wants to also share her experience. Can we unmute her?
Yes, sure. Ma'am, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. For those who don't know me, I head QMed Knowledge Foundation, which works in a very niche area of medical research. So most of our donations actually come from our donors themselves, but a lot of it is family and friends. I've had practically nothing as grants. It's just been one small group of doctors who've early stages given us really, amounts like 50,000 at a time and all that. So I don't even know if that's counted as a grant. In all these years, our donations have only come from individual donors. What I'd like to share is that what all have I tried? Danamojo I've been on for the last, 3-4 years probably. I can't remember exactly when we came on. So that was our payment gateway. We've also done a couple of campaigns on crowdsourcing things like Impact Guru and Milap a couple of times. Abroad, we've been on Global Giving since 2013. Global Giving is where I learned a lot about crowdfunding. And the major advantage of registering there was that those who from the US friends and family who donate, they get tax exemption. That's the major reason for keeping it there. And what I've experienced over years there is that they have a way of ranking us based on how well we've performed in different ways, how we've learned from them, etc. A lot of ways. So there are times when our rank has gone high, and as a result, we've had donations from totally unknown donors with their contact details, that is email ID, so that we could thank them directly. We've also had anonymous donations. So roughly around $4,000 in so many years has come totally unexpectedly. That has been one. Crowdfunding here, I've done a couple of times, but now I'm very clear I don't need to go there because I think Danamojo's one of the earlier webinars where Dhaval has differentiated it very well. I know that in India, I don't need to do that because it's much, I'm anyway contacting the same audience. And our kind of work is something that people are not going to see on Milap and say, oh my God, I have sympathy and give it, because it's a very academic area. So there's no need for me to go there. Specific instances, in the early years when I was raising funds on Global Giving, there was one year where I was in the US and I had won an award, and I also happened to meet a very famous person in my field. And then one of my colleagues reminded me, now that we are on Global Giving, why don't you write to him and ask if he would donate, since he met you on the day you got your award. So I wrote to him, and from their organization, we got a $500. It was my colleague who suggested this. It didn't strike me. Um, a few friends donate monthly on Global Giving. They volunteer to do it on their own. Small amounts like $10, $12, $15, but over years, it has become a good amount. Locally, Dana Mojo started this monthly and recurring more recently. I've not yet got onto that. I'm just working it out. But before that, I had to do reminders for that kind of thing. That was a thing I had got on. Yeah, and just sharing that sometimes posting on Facebook and all that has been good for me. And because an old childhood friend of mine saw my post and gave a $500 donation. She's in the US. So I have had a lot of possibly just good luck. I understand when Dhaval says don't use Facebook or any social media primarily for asking, that I understand. But when there's a campaign or something, I put it up, it has helped. So of course, I really get the balance of it all. And I think I'm learning more and more out of all these webinars, and things are falling into place. So that's how much I wanted to share about my experiences and learning.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to answer anybody personally if they wish to get in touch with me. You can ask Namita Dhaval for my number and ID and get in touch.
Thank you so much, Vasumati, for sharing your experiences. I completely agree that social media should be used by individuals to raise money and by organizations to raise awareness. Right? I think that's the balance I would put on social media. Yeah, we could have
Yeah,
Ruben.
Ruben.
Hi, I'm Ruben. Most of you might not be knowing, I had an organization called Pact India for the past 1.5 years. It's a new startup. So basically, we work with a very unique area where we have identified that orphaned, abandoned, and surrendered children with special needs. Basically, they are the children who will be left out within that sector. Most of the times, they have very less, focus, and they don't get adopted most of the times also. So we started working with them for one reason, that we wanted to rehabilitate them, and also we wanted to find how their aftercare.
So Ruben, just from a time perspective, are you sharing your experience on
No, I just want to ask one
fundraising, or you have a
question.
question?
Yeah,
Okay,
I have
so
a
can you
question.
get to the question then?
Yeah, so basically, our works will be more and more with orphanages and special adoption agencies and other stuff and all. So most of the cost will be built. Say, for example, if we rehabilitate a child, the cost will be built there. Our, say, for example, a caliper or assistive device and all, the care homes will raise for it. But unfortunately, the cost that we go and given for our time, right? So that never gets raised, because we as an organization, we are a few professionals who go and work. And since it's a new startup, most of the times our costs will never get
Ruben, I think I understand what you're asking is really how do you raise money for your costs, right? Your time costs.
Yeah.
Right. So Ruben, I think this is a simple issue of how you do accounting and how you measure your results, right? So if you're, for example, saying, let me give an example which you'll probably understand a little bit more easily, is education, right? We don't say provide for the largest chunk of expenditure in education is actually on teacher salary. Roughly 70% of spend on education is teacher salary, right? But you don't go and ask for saying sponsor a teacher salary, because the teacher's salary is to educate the child. You have to focus on the impact and say educating a child. And in educating a child, a part of that cost will be teacher salary, a part of that cost will be notebooks, a part of that cost will be uniforms and whatever else. So it is about how you package what your impact is, right? So if you're talking about rehabilitating the child, right, what all activities are done as part of that rehabilitation, and measuring the cost of each of those items and putting down is what will help you recover that cost. If you ask for salaries, yes, no one likes to give to salaries, because like I said, people don't want to give to you. They don't want to know you. They want to give for the impact that you are creating. So that impact is what needs to be upfront. Right? Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Probably I'll write to you separately also, no problem.
Sure.
To your
Sure.
team, basically. Yeah, yeah.
Great. Yeah. Lakshmi, can you, Mr. Lakshmi Narayan? Can you ask your question?
Joel, I am a consumer unit. I just from Consumer Union Trust Society. Actually, we have the registered in FCRA and 12 certificate also. And we just mostly getting fund from outside India, I guess 60-70%. Right. Our actually we would like to take your advice and we want to join with you. Can you and individually funds we also expected from outside India. So now government is recently changed the FCRA account in SBI mandatory. So can we
Yeah.
get
So.
yeah, please tell me. So my question is that in out of India fund, in the individual fund, can we get in FCRA account which are opening in SBI soon?
Just a second. Looks like Dhaval's connectivity has an issue.
You hear me?
Yeah. Yes, Lakshman. 1 minute. Dhaval's issue, I think connectivity had an issue. Okay, by the time he is back, I want again your 2 minutes to fill out the feedback form. This feedback form is very important to us to keep us motivated and go ahead. And also to know if we are doing a good job. Here is our feedback form link. Kindly fill it. It's just going to take 2 minutes.
Namita, maybe I could just help out for Lakshmi ji's question.
Yes. Please.
So as thank you, Vasumati ji, you have answered on our behalf to Mr. Lakshmi Narayan. You can check that out as well, sir. That right now you can receive donations only. Actually, you can receive donations from foreign citizens only in your FCRA bank account. You cannot receive it in any other bank account except your FCRA bank account. And also right now, as per the FCRA regulations, you need to have your FCRA account opened in SBI Delhi branch. So you could open that, and once you do that, you can receive donations in only that one bank account. And the same has been addressed to you by, the same question has been addressed by Vasumati ji as well. You can definitely go through it as well.
So you hear me?
Yes, sir, I'm able to hear you.
Yes. Actually, my question is purely that we would like to assist you by the payment gateway. So by can way you what you help to by in this and what is your procedure to attach with you Dana Partner? Yeah.
So to take payment gateway, to take Dana Mojo's payment gateway, you can fill the inquire form and our team will get in touch with you, explaining about the platform in detail as well. And you can receive, both domestic, we provide both domestic and international payment gateways. So definitely we'll explain you more in detail separately once you, fill the inquire form, and we can discuss more on this, sir.
For detailing, we can write a mail.
Yes, definitely. You can write us a mail or you can fill the inquire form so that our team can get in touch with you and explain you in detail whatever queries you have.
Okay. Any quantum, any volume for your, just you suggesting a...
I'm sorry, sir. I'm unable to get you.
Yeah, moving on, Shubha is going to demonstrate how Dana Mojo works and how Dana Mojo can be helpful in your daily work. Shubha, can you just start over?
Sure, definitely. I hope you all are able to see my screen.
Yes, Shubha, go ahead.
Sure. So I'll walk you through Dana Mojo. What we provide, what are the features we provide, what new platforms we have bought in, everything in detail. I'll explain you over this next 20 minutes. So coming to Dana Mojo, we are India's first integrated payment solutions platform for NGOs, and we have onboarded about 900 plus NGOs until now. And at Dana Mojo, we have two new platforms along with the old one platform that we had. So coming to the first one, which is, I'm sorry that it will take just a little time for the next slide to come in. Meanwhile, I'll explain you. So the first one is the one-time payment solutions platform. So this payment solutions one-time solutions platform is for your donors who do not give you regularly, but they come in once in a while to your platform and make a donation to you. So it will be useful for such donors. Coming to the second one, which is recurring donations platform. So this platform is very useful in case you have a good number of recurring donors. Even if you don't have, you can just try this out. You can, connect with your donors in case they are interested to give frequently to you. And this helps you to, this helps your donors to, set up a subscription kind of thing where they can just, put in the subscription, put in the end date, they can select the frequency, whether they want to give monthly, weekly, or yearly. So based on their wish, they can put in the frequency.
Your slide is not changing. Have you shared the correct screen? Just check.
Yes, Dhaval. I believe it has stuck. I'll just share again. I believe my screen is stuck. Just give me a second. Are you able to see this in this format currently? Okay, I'm not sure. I'm sorry that it's not coming up to full screen. As soon as it happens, I'll definitely share it on full screen. Sorry that I'm sharing it in a small screen right now. So I was talking about the recurring donations platform. So this recurring donations helps your donors to save their time. They do not have to come to your platform every time to make a donation. And also, as Dhaval said, the donors might forget giving to you. So this will eliminate that thing. Now they will not forget because it will be already, set, and they can forget about it. The donations will keep happening automatically. So this recurring donations platform is very useful for the recurring donors that you have. Coming to the third one, which is anonymous donations or the UPI QR code platform. So right now, everywhere you see is QR code, you just scan the code and make a donation. So it's the most convenient way of making payments. So why not have it for donations as well? And also, if there is a way to make quick donations, donors will definitely choose that rather than, going through all the process to make a donation. So this is a very good platform for your donors to make it easy for them to donate. And also donations under this, platform, if they donate through QR code, the details are not captured. Hence, we call it as anonymous donations, but yet we do have a feature where they can, give their details and make it non-anonymous as well. I'll come to that in the further slide. Coming to our features. So we call ourselves an integrated payment solutions platform because we provide everything that is needed for fundraising in one platform. Coming to the first one, that your donors will have a choice to select from the ongoing activities, projects, or campaigns that you have on your website. So this will help them select what they are more connected to and make a donation to you quickly by seeing it on the donation page itself rather than, scrolling to about or the campaigns page and then coming to the donation page. Second is 100% legal compliance. So we provide 100% we are 100% legally compliant. So you need not worry about any legal compliance at Dana Mojo. We also have 100% legal compliant form, which captures all the donors' details which are legally required. And you can also view this in the dashboard that we provide as well. Coming to the third one is convenience. So we provide all the options, we provide a lot of payment options and domestic and international payment gateway as well. Under it, they will have all the payment options like debit card, credit card, net banking, mobile wallets, and UPI. So it makes it very convenient for the donor to choose what payment methods they wish to give from. Also, we call Dana Mojo as cost effective because we lower your operational costs. And one of the method how we do that is instant automated ATG receipt. So this will definitely decrease your operational cost. Also, the person's time who would be, sitting manually to send out your receipt. So it definitely saves out your time as well as it is cost effective. We also help you to communicate with your donors as well in two ways. One is we do engagement campaigns every month, and we have seen that this helps in increasing the donations from your own donors by 5 to 10%. And also we provide email marketing platform in your dashboard itself, through which you can send out any newsletters or updates or stories that you wish to share to your donors automatically from the dashboard itself. Now at Dana Mojo, we provide a very simple HTML-based integration. So it just takes 2 minutes to integrate. And in case you do not have a technical team or a web developer, we do it for you. And this is an example of Goonch website where our widget is integrated. And another USP with Dana Mojo is that your donor remains on your own website throughout the donation process. Like they are not redirected to any other payment links or any other page to make a donation. They remain on your website throughout the donation. And this is very important from a trust perspective. This will, give in more trust on your website, and this trust helps the donor to, come back again and make donation to you. As I said, we have onboarded about 900 NGOs. You can definitely go through this. I'll spare some seconds for you to go through this. So coming to our first donations platform. So at our one-time donations, your donors will have the convenience of lots of payment methods to make donations from. They will have debit cards, credit cards, net banking, mobile wallets, and even UPI payment method through which they can make a donation. Coming to our next one, which is recurring donations platform. So recurring donations, they can make via credit cards, debit cards, net banking. We also have UPI recurring. And one of the main, you can say, the benefit that you get for the recurring donations platform is that you don't have to do any effort to integrate this on your platform. We do it for you. It's a zero additional integration effort at your end if you want to take up this platform. And also we provide multiple flexible frequencies like per week. If they want to donate weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, they can select the start date, end date, and then select the payment method that they want to make. And also in case there is, the cards expired or there is some, problem that the donation is not happening, we send in a notification so that you are aware that the donation has not happened or the card has expired. And also you can choose to display what kind of product or your campaigns you want under your monthly donation options and your one-time donation options. So this will help you to differentiate, or you can display one product under both as well. That can also be done. Coming to our next platform, which is UPI QR code platform. So this allows your donors to make quick donation. And as I said, if they want to make this anonymous donation as non-anonymous, they can fill in their details and claim the ATG receipts as well. And also they can donate any amount from rupees 1 to 1 lakh. And UPI QR code being very flexible in case of sharing. You can share it on your social medias. You can use it in various offline events, your marketing collaterals, brochures. And now your donor need not come to your website to make a donation. They can just scan the QR code wherever they find this and make a donation to you. They don't have to take the effort of coming to your website and then making a donation. They see this QR code in your WhatsApp, they scan or they click the link and make a donation to you. They see this in your email, they scan and make a donation to you. So it's that easy and quick for making a donation when you have a UPI QR code platform. So along with this, we also have a few more value-added features such as branded QR codes. This QR code, it can be scanned by a normal QR code scanner, and this leads to your webpage to make donations to your NGO. We also provide a dashboard where you can log in and go through all the details of your donors or your payouts, or you can use the email marketing platform through the dashboard. Every month, we also share a donation summary, which can be which has all the details about the donations that you have collected in the last month, and annual fundraising summary as well, which will have more detailed information about the donations that you have collected in the past year. So we call ourselves Integrated Payment Solutions Platform because we provide a holistic solutions which covers your overall cost, time, and effort. Let me explain you how. So we provide also additional, you can say, feature like you can create receipts for your offline donations that you receive. So these donations can be from check or bank transactions. You can create receipts and keep all the list of receipts in one platform. We also provide 0% transaction charge feature, which allows your donors to cover the transaction charge for you. We also provide personalized one-on-one training on the dashboard or any other feature that you want to understand to make use of the platform completely. We also run fundraising webinars, which has been very useful to you. Of course, a lot of them have been giving us very good feedbacks on the webinar. It's been very useful for them. We also do auto separation for your Indian and foreign donations. And also we do a website monitoring. That is, whenever your website is down or your link is, not present, donation link, we inform you immediately so that you can work on it and correct it, so that your donors do not miss out the link or the donate button to make a donation. Whereas if you go for a traditional payment gateway, all these features will not be provided, and they will not, fulfill all this. They'll just provide you with a payment gateway to collect donations. Only that is possible at the traditional payment gateway. So at Dana Mojo, we offer pricing plans suited for all size of organization. I'll spare some seconds for you to go through it. We'll definitely share this presentation with you. Once you fill the inquire form, again, we'll explain you in detail as well on this. We are happy to share that we'll also do a full waiver on the annual subscription fees if you raise certain amount of, funds during the year. Under each plans, we have set some targets or maybe some, you can say, ASF renewal volumes, so that if you come to this volume, we'll, waive off your ASF as well. So the key difference between the features, you can also go through this once we share the presentation with you. So let me share an example how Dana Mojo is cost-effective solutions compared to any traditional payment gateway. So at a traditional payment gateway, you need to have a website developer for whom maybe you might pay around 15,000 to 1 lakh. And then to maintain it, obviously you need to pay the monthly charges depending on the level of technology that you have taken. And then you'll have to have a hosting provider for whom you might pay monthly charges. You'll also need to have a payment gateway. You'll also need to take an email marketing platform to send out all your newsletters, emailers that you send it. And also you have an operations team who is creating and sending receipts manually to your donors. It can happen that they might miss also, as it is not automatic. So summing up all this, the total cost at a traditional payment gateway might cost you around 15,000 to 1 lakh rupees. Whereas all these elements we have put in together in our Dana Mojo's payment solutions platform under the range of 3,000 to 9,000 only. So you can see how much big difference it makes. We are having all the elements. You do not need to worry on any of the elements, only under the range of 3,000 to 9,000 rupees. And hence we say that looking at the overall cost, we are a cost-effective solutions compared to any other traditional payment gateway. And also, we have brought in a new feature, which is 0% transaction fee option. So right now, if your donors are coming to your website and they want to make a donation, they can choose to cover your transaction charges as well. So in this way, you have 0% transaction fee because they would be paying the transaction charges on behalf of you. And we have seen that about 55 to 60% of the donors cover the transaction charge for their NGOs. And why not you to do that? I mean, your donors would be also very happy to cover the transaction charge for you. You can activate this and start getting, you can say, extra options for them to, make a donation and help you in covering your cost as well. And also we provide few specific features which is not provided by any other traditional payment gateway. Like we provide a web page for NGOs without a website. And also we do auto separation of your donations into your foreign and Indian account. We also have few features cater to the unique needs of the NGO. Like we do integration in just 2 minutes. It's a very simple HTML based integration. We also monitor your website. We also provide phone support, which is not provided by most of the payment gateway providers as well. We have also received few recognition for our work with a few awards and accelerator programs, and you can have a look at it. We are a winner of NASSCOM Social Innovation Forum 2018. I'll also spare some seconds for you to go through about the NGO's experience with us. And similarly, in case you need to know more information about Dana Mojo, about any other platforms that you're specifically interested in, you can definitely register or fill the inquire form on our website, and we'll be very happy to share in detail information about each of the platforms, and also we'll share the presentation with you as well. And lastly, for NGOs without a website, we provide a web page to accept donations. So this is not limited to the NGOs without a website. Sometimes NGOs with website may face some problems as well. For example, their website might not be mobile responsive. So in that case, they can use our web page to collect donations. Also, you can use this as a backup donation page when your website is down or under maintenance. So yeah, that's it for from my side about Dana Mojo. And as I said, you can fill the inquire form to know more on the, you can say, gateway part. And I'll share the link for you to, fill in the inquire form, and then you can connect with us. You can even write us to care@danamojo.org. I'll mention in the I'll mention in the chat the link where you can fill the form to know more about Dana Mojo.
Yeah, if you have any questions regarding Dana Mojo, please go ahead and raise your hand or ask it on the chat. Okay, I am resending the feedback link. Please spare your 2 minutes and let us know your feedback so that we can improve ourselves. And also, if you could suggest any topic on which you want to know further, we are open for it. Here is the feedback link. Yeah, recording of this session will also be uploaded to our YouTube channel. and please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on any update, and also the past webinar recordings are available in the YouTube channel. Our next session is going to be on HNI fundraising. So make sure you register for it, and we look forward to seeing you in our upcoming webinars. Thanks for your time this time.